Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another Brawl Stars video, and today we're going to be talking about the new star powers that were just changed in Brawl Stars completely, like they were nerfed to the ground. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video to make sure that you know which specific star powers you need to use on your brawlers because it's constantly changing, so I'm here to provide you with all the new information. And we're going to take a closer look at the stats and actual examples to see if they are still good or if they are just completely useless. So we're going to take a look at Steel Hoops on Darryl, and then Extra Life on 8-Bit. Both of those were changed twice in the past week or so. And then we're also going to look at Bea Honey Coat. This wasn't changed twice, but that star power was still completely nerfed in the first set of balance changes that we just saw. So first I'm going to go over a bit of history of the balance changes for the first star power, which is Steel Hoops on Darryl. So initially when the star power was released, it gave Darryl a shield for 3.5 seconds, which reduced all the damage he took by 30%. And then that was eventually increased to 40%, decreased back down to 30%, then decreased to 25%, and then decreased up to 30% again, so right back where it started. Clearly 30% was like the sweet spot that they always came back to. But then they changed the shield duration down to 3 seconds, which was originally 3.5 seconds, then down to 2.5 seconds, and then recently they decreased it to 0.9 seconds, which is an insane decrease, and everyone was super mad about that. But then in the very most recent set of balance changes, they actually corrected their mistakes and increased his shield protection instead of the shield duration up to 90% instead of 30%. So this is a huge change as well. Supercell really does not like to go for those small changes. So currently where it sits right now is it is a 0.9 second shield, which is essentially the duration of his roll, and he decreases all damage done to him by 90%. Ultimately, this star power has either been super broken or super garbage, like when it was 0.9 seconds but only decreased by 30% of the damage. But right now, it seems fairly balanced. It's essentially equivalent to invincibility when he's rolling. And even though that invincibility may only be for a short time, it still is very, very useful because it lets him move places. So like it's really good in heist because you can charge up to the safe without taking any damage during your path towards the safe. Now typically people like bulls or roses are going to be waiting for you at the safe when they see that you're close to it with your super, and they're going to start attacking before you get there in order to get your health a bit lower, so that way once you're on the safe you don't have much time to actually deal damage. But now that you're basically invincible, they have to save their attacks until you're already on the safe, and so they're attacking at the same rate as you. And so if they can take you out in 3 attacks, then you get 3 free attacks on the safe. Essentially what this whole thing means is you just get a lot more time to deal damage because they can't deal damage to you while you're rolling. And this is also super good to escape in Showdown because you're essentially invincible and you get to move away. So if there's ever an interaction that doesn't go the way you planned, then you're still good to go as long as you have your super ready. And even though it's pretty good for escaping, it's also good for offense in Showdown. If you charge up on someone like a Bull or even another Darryl, they can't attack you until you're already on top of them, and at that point it's just a matter of who can basically tap the button faster. And it's probably going to be you, because they have to wait for the perfect moment until your shield goes away before they can start attacking you, and you can just start spamming your button because you have no shield to worry about on them. So ultimately the star power now has some very, very good uses, and it seems like it's more well balanced than before. So this one I actually think worked out pretty well. Some of the later ones, however, I definitely don't think worked out well. So let's move on to 8-Bit's Extra Life. Originally he just respawned when he died, and he was invincible and he had some ammo as well, but the first change they made was that he respawns with 0 ammo, and then they decreased his invincibility duration from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, and then they just completely removed the invincibility altogether. So essentially he respawned with no invincibility and with no ammo, which was pretty garbage and also got a lot of backlash, just like Steel Hoops. So then they most recently changed it to give him 1 ammo when he respawns. And now this ammo actually changes a lot of interactions and makes him not that bad. In Duo Showdown, this Extra Life actually lets you stall for a decent amount of time in order for your teammate to respawn, and this situation comes up more than you might think. It takes like 2.5 seconds to respawn, which is essentially free invincibility for those 2.5 seconds. And when you respawn, you can still deal a volley of bullets, which does some pretty good damage since 8-Bit has a very high damage on his attack. And honestly, it just lets you catch people off guard, because once you die and they see that you've completely died, they're going to try to run up on you and take your power cubes, but it's going to take a couple seconds for them to realize that that bubble is growing again and you're about to respawn. So that surprise effect also helps a lot. So I think this Extra Life is now fairly balanced. It's definitely very mode specific. In a lot of 3v3 modes, it's really not going to be that great. You're definitely going to want to choose his other star power, but now the extra life can actually be used in certain modes like Duo Showdown, which it wouldn't if he respawned with 0 ammo, because then it would be pretty much useless. And now let's finally talk about Bea's Honey Coat, and this one I think is the most controversial among the community right now in Brawl Stars. So originally, when she dropped down below 1 health, she would get her shield for 1 second and it would be pure invincibility, and she would get this once every time she respawns. So that's, over the course of 1 game, a lot of invincibility. But then the first balance change they made was to decrease it to 0.6 seconds, and honestly, it was still super broken after that. The fact that you get invincibility for all of your lives is super good, even if it is only for a very short amount of time. Then they made the change where it only triggers once per match, and along with this change they increased her shield duration to 1 second, back where it was right at the start. But that change really means nothing, because the fact that it only triggers once per match now makes it very bad. Obviously it's better than no star power. It is good to have that one moment when your opponent thinks they've got you down, but then you still survive with that 1 health. But the only time this may come in handy is in solo showdown, where you're not even going to be respawning. In literally every other mode, it's just so bad, because you only get it once per game. If you just directly compare this to 8-Bit's extra life star power in its current state, which really isn't the best star power, you can see just how bad Bea's Honey Coat is. They both only activate once per game, and they both activate when that specific brawler dies. But then 8-Bit has 2.5 seconds of invincibility when he respawns, whereas Bea only has 1 second of invincibility. But then after that invincibility that 8-Bit already has more of, he respawns with full health, whereas Bea, once her shield goes away, she only has 1 health. And on top of that, 8-Bit still gets 1 of his ammo back, and Bea only has 1 to begin with. So 8-Bit star power is objectively better in every single respect. The only thing I can see that Honey Coat would have over extra life is the fact that you can still attack during those seconds of invincibility, which is only 1 second, and you can only attack once in 1 second for Bea. So unless you get really lucky with the supercharged shot and manage to deal a lot of damage, extra life is just so much better in every mode, in every way. So just for that reason alone, Honey Coat right now is utter garbage. The only thing is that insta-B load is also not that great if you're good at aiming. So honestly, I would sometimes still recommend using Honey Coat, because that one-time invincibility is just better than nothing, and insta-B load, if you can hit most of your shots, is literally nothing. But that is going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed and found this at least a little bit useful. If you did, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. But that's all for today, guys, so see you later.
Make the screams louder.